I never imagined that renting a boyfriend for 500 would lead to a life-changing surprise. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a normal Tuesday morning, or what I thought would be normal. The sunlight streamed through my window, illuminating the dust floating in the air. I could barely blink without feeling the weight of loneliness pressing down on my chest. My heart raced as my palms sweated with the thought of facing another family gathering. My mother's high-pitched laugh and the shattering disappointment in her eyes haunted my thoughts. As I scrolled through my phone, an ad popped up, bright and enticing. Rent a date. It sounded ridiculous and desperate, 500 for a weekend with a stranger. But I was desperate. My heart squeezed at the images of perfect couples, every single one of them so hopeful and happy. I could already hear my mother's teasing tone, questioning why I was still single at 27. The thought made my throat tighten. I couldn't let her down again. So, I did it. I pressed the button, and just like that, I was plunged into a world of mystery. The online form asked for everything: my preferences, my ideal date, even my favorite ice cream flavor. I cringed while typing. It felt so surreal, so secretive. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone might be judging me for this decision. But then, a rush of exhilarating freedom coursed through me. I was taking control. When he arrived, my heart fluttered nervously. A tall figure with dark hair and an easy smile. Mark. I quickly learned that he was charming and attentive, banishing my anxiety with idle chatter and laughter. For those few hours, everything felt perfect. I felt silly and free, forgetting the pressure from my family. But then, the whispers began. I overheard snippets from my neighbors, murmurs that seemed to hang in the air like storm clouds. They thought I had lost my mind. I saw their looks as we walked down the street, pointed glances filled with judgment and confusion. The evening closed in, and I felt the thrill begin to fade. Wasn't this all just a game? My heart sank, and a pit formed in my stomach when I remembered why I had hired him in the first place. Would I have to deal with this again? Would I spend the rest of my life renting companionship? And then, as if sensing my internal chaos, Mark leaned in closer, his voice low and serious. There's something I need to tell you. In that moment, my heart halted. My breath caught in my throat. I needed to know what came next, but dread loomed just before his revelation. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, each word unspoken taking root between us. I searched Mark's face, desperately hoping to glean some insight into what would come next. His brow furrowed as if he were weighing every syllable, and I felt an inexplicable mixture of intrigue and fear course through me. What is it? I finally managed to whisper, my heart racing in anticipation. He glanced around, his expression shifting from intensity to fleeting vulnerability. The thing is, I didn't just show up here for the money, he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. I have my reasons. Those words echoed in my mind, scattering my thoughts like feathers in the wind. Reasons? How could a simple transaction become burdened with complexity? The lightness of our earlier laughter felt eons away. Why does that matter? I asked, my voice quivering, uncertainty clawing at the edges of my resolve. We're just pretending, right? The very foundation of our connection, that feigned relationship, crumbled beneath the weight of his honesty and my need for it. He hesitated, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond me, maybe recalling the life he'd left behind. I needed to escape. This job, it's just a stepping stone. I'm working on something bigger. Each response blurred the lines of our reality further. I felt the familiar clutch of fear as I thought about my own reasons for being here, temporarily escaping my family, my disappointments, my loneliness. But Mark's desperation seemed deeper than mine, sparking an unsettling curiosity within me. How much bigger? I asked, my intrigue breaking through the trepidation. Mark finally turned to me, his blue eyes piercing through the veil of tension. I'm starting a non-profit, actually. Helping people like you, people who feel lost and alone. His confession hung in the air, and I couldn't discern whether it was meant to lift me or weigh me down even more. People like me. The words escaped my lips on a shaky breath. What do you know about being lost? Bitter anger surfaced, clawing its way up from where I'd buried it. How dare he suggest he knew anything about my struggles? Mark recoiled slightly, disappointment shadowing his features. I've been there, trust me. I thought if I could understand what it feels like to be alone, I'd be able to help others. As I searched his face for a hint of pretense, a fleeting glimpse of shared pain passed between us. But before I could take that in fully, the door swung open, interrupting our moment. My mother stood there, her expression a mix of confusion and delight. I clashed with reality, my heart sinking further into the pit of despair. Sweetheart. There you are. She turned to Mark, her smile bright and infectious. And who might this handsome young man be? 1,000 horrified thoughts swirled in my mind as I rushed to speak, to explain, to save both Mark and myself from this embarrassment. But before I could utter a word, Mark stepped forward, offering his hand in a warm, genuine greeting. Mark, her boyfriend for the weekend. A lump formed in my throat as he played the role in such an effortless way, leaving me reeling. My mother's eyes sparkled, her enthusiasm overwhelming. Oh, I knew my daughter would find someone special. I could only watch, paralyzed as Mark rolled with the moment, smiling genuinely, his demeanor unpretentious and comforting in this unexpected spotlight. Despite the panic swirling within me, I couldn't help but admire how effortlessly he embraced this chaos. After my mother's flurry of compliments and auntly banter, the atmosphere lightened for a braided moment, refused to succumb to the reality a whirlwind of questions, judgment, and laughter I was utterly unprepared for. The bubbly conversation swept over me, drowning my anxieties but leaving me gasping for breath underneath its relentless waves. Then something peculiar happened. As Mark and my mom chatted animatedly about their favorite TV shows, my attention drifted away momentarily. I caught sight of the small family photo hanging on the wall, our faces radiant and laughing on a sunlit vacation, full of love and connection. And beneath it, moments from years past flooded my mind. Me Dad's infectious laughter, my mother's arms wrapped around us, holding everything together. Suddenly, a torrent of longing surged through me, merging beautifully with the budding recognition of Mark's warmth, but as the laughter continued to envelop us, thoughts of my own real struggle, a haunting loneliness surging back, began to creep in. Just when I thought I could bear the chaos, my mother added with a loving fervor, "I'm so glad you're finally moving on from that awful breakup, sweetie." The laughter froze as my heartbeat thundered in my ears. Shock pierced through me. I couldn't breathe. I caught Mark's gaze, his eyes wide with surprise, my worst fears enveloping us in a tightening grip. And in that moment of utter vulnerability, every unseen thread of connection unraveled completely. I trembled on the precipice of an emotional cliff, teetering over the divide between the hopes and shadows, unsure of how high the fall would be. The tension in the room shifted, like a dark cloud rolling in just as the sun broke through the horizon. My mother's cheerful voice echoed, oblivious to the seismic shift that had just occurred. The laughter that had moments ago felt like a warm embrace now felt sharp and cruel, like icy shards slicing through the thin veneer of bliss surrounding us. "Mom," I stifled the words as they clawed their way up my throat. I felt exposed, raw and unprepared for my past to resurface as a weapon against me in this fragile moment. The answer hung suspended in the air, an unrelenting shadow over my bravado. "Sweetheart, it's such a relief to see you smiling again," she pressed, her enthusiasm blinding her to my discomfort. "It's about time you moved forward. You can't dwell on what was." Mark, standing like an unassuming anchor amidst the tempest, offered a gentle smile that transformed his features, but I saw the flicker of understanding in his eyes. He was watching me unravel, and rather than try to mend what was breaking, he simply stood by, a steadfast surrender to my storm. "Mom, this is well, it's complicated." My voice trembled, the weight of my past pressing heavily on my chest. Just when I thought the ground beneath me had become solid again, the chasm yawned open, threatening to swallow me whole. Mark stepped in, cutting through my spiraling thoughts. "You know, moving on takes time. Sometimes, a little distraction helps." He flashed a confident grin, a beacon of hope in a sea of turmoil. But his eyes spoke a different story, daring me to confront the truth rather than hide behind a facade. My mother giggled, gushing over how lucky I was to have such a remarkable partner, entirely unaware that her jubilant words were like salt in an open wound. "See? That's what you need. Someone who sees your worth, who makes you feel alive again." Behind her encouraging words, I heard my own silent screams, a part of me wishing I could curl up and become invisible. But as much as I wanted to vanish, I also felt an insatiable urge to push back against the rising tide of bitterness. Suddenly, I caught a glimmer of solidarity in Mark's gaze, a soft promise that he wouldn't allow me to wade through these turbulent waters alone. In that moment, our connection deepened, threaded together by the shared realization of just how fragile we both were. My mother continued, blissfully ignorant of my emotional plight. "Maybe you two could go on a date tonight. Just the two of you. You know, I always thought the best way to heal is to find joy in new experiences." A giddying thrill of rebellion coursed through me at the thought. A date? With Mark? The idea scared me and thrilled me simultaneously, all the while the anchor in my mind weighed my thoughts down with doubts. But just as I thought I could ride this high, shadows of the past reared their ugly heads, haunting me with memories of broken trust and suffocating expectations. I looked to Mark, desperate for him to read my mind. He had already transformed into the embodiment of courage I desperately needed. "Do you want to, go out?" I stammered, hoping that the sincerity behind the question would carry with it the weight of my turmoil. Mark's expression shifted to something softer, the edges of his smile crinkling at the corners as he searched for the right words. "Well, I'd like that." Before I could indulge in the warmth of our newfound understanding, my phone vibrated aggressively on the table. I shot my mother a reassuring smile and picked it up, praying it wasn't another unwelcome invitation back into the encumbering past. But as I glanced at the screen, dread clawed its way up my throat. The name burned my vision, Jack. I could barely manage a breath as each letter spelled out an ultimatum I wasn't ready to face. "Where are you? We need to talk." The message, stark and unyielding, threatened to dismantle whatever fragile cocoon I had found myself in with Mark. Heart racing, I felt the room spin, reality colliding with the burgeoning world of possibilities before me. My mind raced, tangled threads of confusion wrapping tightly around any semblance of clarity I had managed to grasp. "Are you okay?" Mark's gentle inquiry sliced through my fog of fear, grounding me momentarily. "Yeah, just," I hesitated, fear gnashing at my insides. "It's my ex. He wants to talk." The quiver in my voice betrayed me, and in that moment, I saw something shift behind Mark's eyes, a flicker of empathy, but also the sharp edges of realization. The comfort I felt about our budding connection seemed to waver under the threat of my past, and my mother's voice pierced through the silence again. "Oh, sweetheart, don't even think about him. Remember what I said about moving on." But her voice felt distant, fading behind my rising walls of anxiety. Mark turned to me, his chin raised assertively, as if daring me to cut through the chaos that threatened to drown us both. "You don't have to answer right away," he urged, and I could feel his energy, a steady flame flickering against my growing uncertainty. The laughter that had once been a source of comfort now felt like an echo in a void filled with unanswered questions. "I need to make a choice," I whispered, the weight of the moment crushing me again, forcing clarity in the chaos. Mark reached out, his hand covering mine warm and steady. "Just remember, you're not alone in this." A small gesture, tender and promising. But as I met his eyes, I couldn't shake the impending sense of doom curling around me, the realization that the decisions I faced now could rip apart the tenuous fabric of connection we were weaving. Before I could answer, before I could reaffirm that maybe, just maybe, I could choose to forge ahead with him, the sound of my mother's laughter rang out, replaced by the harsh ding of my phone. Another message from Jack. If you don't come, he'll find you. The air thickened again, a suffocating tension wrapping around my chest. Here I was, standing between two worlds, with no guarantee of safety in either. Behind me, laughter echoed warmly, and ahead loomed the ghost of my past, refusing to let me go without a fight. Everything I had hoped for and the very foundation on which I started to rebuild hung precariously in the balance. Suddenly, the choice felt heavier than I could bear, and I knew that no matter which road I took next, everything was about to change forever. The tremor in my hand betrayed the tempest swirling inside me. I stared at the screen, the words, "If you don't come, he'll find you," etched deeply into my consciousness. Each breath felt like a weight I had to lift from my chest, and time slowed as I contemplated not only my response to Jack but also what it would mean for me, for Mark, and for the future I desperately wanted to build. That I shifted my gaze towards Mark, whose eyes were now hard with concern. The warmth of his hand still sheltered mine, yet I could feel the heaviness accumulating in the space between us. I wanted so fiercely to break free from the chains binding me to my past, but with every heartbeat echoing Jack's threat in my mind, that desire faded beneath a rising tide of dread. "Will you?" My voice cracked, feeling small against the current of emotions cascading around us. "Will you wait for me?" The question hung in the air, fragile and trembling, much like my resolve. "Always," Mark replied, his voice steady like an oak against a whirlwind. "Just take your time." The sincerity in his response filled me with a flicker of hope, but the darkness clinging closely behind me dimmed its glow. My mother's laughter echoed around me, a jarring contrast to the storm raging within. I needed to act. To confront the shadows before they consumed me entirely. I hesitated again, uncertainty wrapping around my throat like a noose. I need to respond to Jack. He doesn't understand the word no. Mark's hand tightened around mine, a silent promise that he would navigate this with me. I felt the weight of his unwavering support, yet the threat looming on my phone rendered it paper-thin. Taking my breath, I reluctantly unlocked my phone and began typing. My fingers moved almost on instinct, fueled by an urgency to sever whatever tether Jack still held on my heart. "I'm not coming. We're done." But as I hovered over the send button, the weight of what lay ahead pressed down upon me. Would Jack's retaliation be? Would declining his invitation unleash the fury that had once sent me spiraling into despair? My thumb quivered, teetering on the edge of resolve. Mark's gaze bore into me, and amidst the uncertainty, I saw a flicker of something unspoken, a challenge to embrace my power. "You're not that person anymore," he murmured, his voice steadying me like a bomb. As I pressed send, relief flooded through me momentarily, though it was quickly chased by the gnawing anticipation of Jack's response. "It's done," I whispered, as if voicing it aloud could somehow solidify my resolve. Just then, my mother's bubbly voice cut through the heavy air. "What do you say we make this dinner special? Let's toast to happiness. To love." Her enthusiasm felt misplaced, like singing in a storm, but I forced a smile, grateful for her attempts to weave light into gloom. As she poured sparkling wine into glasses, I caught a glimpse of Mark, who seemed to pull strength from the moment. He raised his glass, his eyes inviting me to join him, a gentle encouragement telling me that no matter what storm loomed, there was beauty in the chaos. To love, I echoed, raising my glass, heart racing not just with fear, but a tentative hope igniting within me. Maybe, just maybe, I could carve out a piece of happiness amidst the rubble of my past. But as laughter poured around us in a deluge, my phone vibrated violently again, shattering the serene facade. Jack's name glowed ominously on the screen. "You think you can just walk away? You don't know what you're getting into." A frigid wave of dread warred with the warmth of Mark's presence beside me. The bright lines of my life, which had begun to blur into something hopeful, was suddenly stark and unforgiving. The darkness I thought I had escaped was clawing its way back, and I could almost feel its grip tightening around my throat. "Are you okay?" Mark was there, ever steadfast, and it was in his gaze that I found both comfort and trepidation. "Yes," I lied, though the tremor in my hand gave me away. But as my mother continued her excited chatter, oblivious to my internal war, the walls around me began to thin. For the first time, I felt a rush of defiance swelling in me, battling against the fear Jack instilled deep in my bones. I was more than my past, more than the entangling roots he refused to let go of. I can handle this. Determination ignited my voice, even as whispers of doubt lingered in the corners of my mind. Suddenly, another message chimed, but before I could read it, Mark's hand found mine again, tightening in a silent but powerful agreement. Together, we were on the brink of facing my past, an invisible knife edge that could cut through the shackles binding me, but as I glanced back at my phone, breath hitching, a new realization gripped me just as firmly: Jack wouldn't relent easily. This fight was far from over, and I had no idea how fiercely he would retaliate. In that moment, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, gazing into unfathomable depths. I had a choice. Unfortunately, the path before me was shrouded in uncertainty, and I was about to step into the unknown. The moments following my decision to send that message felt like suspended breaths, caught in the space between dread and hope. Mark's hand held mine tightly, grounding me even as my thoughts spiraled. The echoes of my mother's laughter faded into the background, overtaken by the ominous weight of Jack's aggression clinging to my shoulders. "Let's step outside for a moment," Mark suggested softly, sensing the storm gathering in my eyes. The spring air greeted us like a cool embrace, refreshing but laced with uncertainty. I leaned against the railing, looking out over the distant city lights that sparkled like stars fallen to earth. "Do you really think I can handle this?" I asked, a tremor of vulnerability leaking into my voice. "Absolutely," he replied, the confidence in his tone igniting a flicker of belief within me. "You've already taken the hardest step by choosing to let go. Now you just have to hold on to that strength." As if on cue, my phone vibrated again, and the dread returned in waves. I hesitated for a moment. Mark offered me a reassuring nod, urging me to confront it. With trembling hands, I unlocked the screen and found another message from Jack waiting for me, a jagged slice of ice through my gut. "You really think you can move on that easily? I know where you are. You can't hide from me." Panic surged, hot and visceral. Mark must have sensed the shift in my demeanor because he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "What did he say?" It's nothing. Just more empty threats," I lied, forcing the words past my lips while my heart raced audibly against the silence of the night. I felt dirty and exposed, as if acknowledging any part of Jack's words would grant him more power over me. Mark, however, was unconvinced. "You need to tell me everything, or at least enough. I can't help you if I don't understand. You can't carry this alone anymore." The sincerity in his voice struck a chord within me, and I opened my mouth to respond, but the emotions churned wildly in my chest, threatening to unleash a torrent of buried truths. Just then, my mother's laughter could be heard from inside, breaking the tension like a fleeting warm breeze on a chilly night. "I'm sorry," I finally whispered, defeated. "I want to be strong, but am terrified." That Mark interrupted gently. "Being terrified doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. You've fought through so much already. Lean on me." Tears prickled at the edges of my vision, and I squeezed his hand, searching for strength in his presence. "It's just that I thought I could just walk away and be free of it all. But this?" I motioned helplessly with my phone. "It's suffocating." Mark stepped closer, the urgency in his eyes urging me to be brave. "You need to set boundaries. Tell him this is over." As the weight of his words settled over me like a protective cloak, I felt a small ember of defiance ignite anew within me. Maybe I didn't have to carry this burden alone. Perhaps, together, we could shove the shadows aside just long enough to reclaim a sliver of light. Taking a deep breath, I nodded decisively and began to type. My fingers slid across the screen, forming a defiant response to Jack. "You've lost me. I am moving on. Leave me alone." As soon as I hit send, a shiver coursed through me with exhilaration at my choice and fear of the storm I knew was about to erupt. No sooner had I anticipated the backlash than another message pinged in. "Do you think I'll let you go easily? You'll regret this." A cold wave washed over me. The air thinned and grew heavier than before. My heart raced as I met Mark's unwavering gaze. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in closer, whispering, "I don't care what he says. I'm not letting you face this alone." But just then, the door creaked open, and my mother appeared, the glow from the dining room illuminating the anxiety etched across my face. "Everything okay out here?" she chirped, wholly unaware of the turmoil cascading around us. With a nod that felt more like a mask than a promise, I plastered a smile across my face, grateful for her sweet oblivion. "Yeah. Just enjoying the night air, good," she said, the smile beneath her eyes a beacon of warmth as she turned back towards the warmth inside. "Dinner is almost ready. You both come back in when you're ready." As she disappeared, I felt the darkness creeping anew, mingling with the bittersweet essence of family and love. I turned back to Mark, my pulse unsteady. Where do I go from here? Together, we lingered beneath the stars, the city beneath us still flickering with light, pulsing with life. "One step at a time," he replied gently, his presence a steady anchor in the torrent swirling around me, and just as I opened my mouth to give voice to my lingering fears, my phone vibrated yet again. The screen lit up with a new notification, this one bearing a name I hadn't expected. "Avery's here to see you." My breath caught in my throat, the ground beneath me felt solid and yet entirely uncertain. The walls I once thought only kept me safe began to crumble, and an unexpected wave of panic surged through my veins. Who was Avery, and what was the message inside that revelation? The moment the name Avery flashed on my screen, it felt as if the ground beneath me tilted, throwing my world off balance. With confusion tightening my chest, I searched Mark's face for answers, but all I found were questions reflected in his eyes. "Who's Avery?" he asked, the concern evident in his tone. "I have no idea," I whispered, a frantic edge creeping into my voice. I didn't even know anyone was coming over. My instinct was to hide my phone away, to flee the uncertainty it represented, but instead, I opened the message. The sweet, familiar notification tone felt discordant with the storm brewing inside my mind. "Avery here. Just wanted to introduce myself before I head inside. I'm friends with your mom. See you shortly, your mom's friend." Mark mused aloud, glancing back towards the house. That might not be so bad that I barely registered his comment. Instead, I felt a swell of panic at the thought of another intrusion into my already complicated world. The last thing I needed was more people trying to poke into my life, especially amidst the turbulence I was facing with Jack. What if she tells my mom everything? That I'm struggling, that I needed Mark's support. Mark squeezed my hand again, grounding me. "Breathe. Remember, you don't have to share anything you don't want to. You're in control." His words washed over me, but my heart wouldn't settle. The lingering threat from Jack tightened an invisible noose around my thoughts, making every new interaction feel like a minefield, each step a risk. What if Jack found out? What if Avery exposed my struggles, even inadvertently? The fragile sense of safety I felt with Mark began to unravel. "Maybe we should go inside," I said hesitantly, feeling that the comfort of my home was a veneer, a thin layer with darkness lurking just beneath. "Let's not dismiss this Avery. Friends are good, especially ones connected to family," Mark replied, his eyes soft as he searched my face for reassurance. "What's the worst that could happen? She might even help you. As if on cue, the door swung open again, this time ushering a woman into the evening. Avery was mid-20s, her vibrant auburn hair flowing in waves, the soft glow of the porch light accentuating her bright smile. She had an effortless confidence that instantly drew the eye, and I felt both intimidated and curious about the warmth she radiated. "Look who it is!" my mother exclaimed, heartily emerging to greet her friend. "Avery, come meet my daughter. She's been keeping to herself a bit lately." The hint of awkwardness hung in the air, like an unspoken understanding shared between mother and daughter. "Hi, I'm Avery. Your mom has told me so much about you." She stepped closer, her voice soothing, a balm for my frayed nerves. "I hope you don't mind that I dropped by unannounced. I've always got great things to say about you." I forced a smile, but my heart was racing. "Hi, Ellie, I managed to say, surprised by my soft timbre. What did my mother tell her? I couldn't help but grip Mark's hand tighter, my lifeline amidst the uncertainty. Ellie. It's so lovely to finally meet you. Avery's enthusiasm seemed genuine, and she reached out to pull me into a quick embrace. Your mother's told me about how strong you are. I'd love to help you however I can. Just let me know if you want to talk. Her words felt like a double-edged sword. The warmth of her kindness collided harshly with the icy reality of my current situation. Why was it so easy for people to believe I was strong when I was crumbling inside? Thanks, that's really nice of you, I stammered, struggling to mask the strange cocktail of emotions bubbling beneath my surface. Mark stood just behind me, a silent support, steadfast as the ground shifted under my feet. I watched as Avery shifted her focus to him, her smile infectious. And you must be Mark. I've heard so much about you from your parents. You're the brave one who stuck by Ellie. What a touch of courage, my goodness. You two make quite the team, she chirped, her energy bubbling over in a way that was both jarring and comforting that I felt a twinge of jealousy. Flash within me, my heart craving the easy camaraderie I saw growing between them. How could she be so open? What if she saw through the cracks, through the facade of strength I was desperate to maintain? Thanks, Mark said, smiling at Avery, oblivious to the turmoil in my heart. We try to support each other, especially in difficult times. His words felt laden with meaning, a gentle reminder of what lay ahead. Could he really be my anchor amidst the chaos? My silence weighed heavily in the room, the moment stretching until I could almost feel Jack's presence looming at the edge of the light. Avery turned back to me, her voice softening as she sensed the shift in my energy. Mind if I try a little icebreaker? I always feel more at ease when I talk stories. What's a memory you cherish? Something we can laugh about, maybe? The sincerity in her tone tugged on untapped corners of my heart. I felt the tension loosening ever so slightly, and the warmth sparked a long-dormant flicker of hope within me. I began, but before I could gather my thoughts, the screeching sound of glass shattering filled the air, echoing across the yard that we all turned as my heart stopped. My mother's joyful laughter faded as horror swept across her face. I could barely breathe as the realization hit the window facing the alley where I often escaped. My worries had shattered completely. In that moment, time froze. My phone vibrated again, the screen lighting up with a message from Jack. Not so strong after all, are you? Waiting for you to come home. The world around me spun as the breath caught in my throat. In that instant, I realized the storms I faced were far from over. The safety I craved was slipping further from my grasp, as shadows began to close in. The moment the glass shattered, time slowed. Glass fragments scattered like tiny shooting stars across the ground, reflecting the orange glow of the porch light. A deep, suffocating dread settled in my chest, heavier than I would have ever believed. The laughter faded, replaced by a troubled silence that hung uncomfortably in the air. What was that? Avery asked, her eyes wide with concern, darting towards the darkness beyond the porch. It's nothing, I lied, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. Mark stepped closer, his presence offering an anchor amidst the chaos, grounding me to the reality around us, if only just slightly. Behind me, my mother let out a shaky breath, her face chalky as she peered into the darkening evening. Ellie, did you see what happened? She called, her voice tight and anxious. Oh, I didn't. I'm not sure, I stammered, my heart racing as I instinctively grabbed Mark's hand more firmly. The sheer presence of him was a comfort, but nothing could shield me from the paralyzing fear cracking through my facade. Avery took a step towards the shattered window, eyeing the chaos with a mixture of concern and curiosity. I'll help clean it up. It's probably just an accident. Stay away from the glass. Mark urged, his voice sharp. Ellie, let's check the back. I'll go with you. I met his gaze, my heart thumping in response to the way he cared. But even as he pulled me toward the doorway, a suffocating sense of urgency washed over me. My mind raced. Was it an accident? Was this Jack's twisted way of making a statement? Ellie, Avery interrupted, her voice soft, can I come with you? We can make sure everything is okay. My instinct screamed to close off, to retreat into the comfort of silence. No, it's fine, I replied hastily, panic flaring in my chest. Just let's stay inside for now. I felt like a bird with clipped wings, fluttering helplessly as shadows danced at the periphery of my thoughts. Mark squeezed my hand again, his grip reassuring yet firm. We need to figure this out together. Avery's eyes met mine again, concern furrowing her brow. Do you want me to call someone? Your mom could use some help, too. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, a deep chime vibrating through the silence like a harbinger of dread. I took it out, the brightness unbearably harsh against my darkening mood. Jack, I murmured, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. Mark instinctively moved closer, his concern growing palpable. What does he want? In his eyes, I saw the protective fire igniting, but my heart turned to lead at the thought of revealing more to him. The endgame of Jack's menace. My voice faltered as I unlocked the message, my fingers trembling. It's just a stupid taunt. Mark leaned closer, sensing the weight of my secret. You don't have to hide anything from me, Ellie. Pleased that I took a deep breath, grappling with the decision weighing heavily on me, knowing that honesty could tear the fragile peace we'd created. My gaze fell back on the screen, the words assaulting me again. Ellie, you can't pretend to be fine. I'm not going anywhere. The edge of despair clawed at me as I realized, with chilling clarity, that this felt like much more than a game. It was a warning, a reminder of the ties that bound me to Jack. My mother's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts, panicked but calm as she returned from assessing the damage. I think we're okay. It was just a stray base-ballan accident, she said, but I saw the lie she tried to conjure, her eyes reflecting the fear that lay beneath the surface. Mom, are you sure? I asked, still clinging to Mark's hand as if it were a lifeboat amidst rising tides. We should check for anyone around. Avery stepped in, her voice steady. Do you want me to look with you, Ellie? Relief washed over me at her offer, but I felt something else, a reluctant doubt creeping in, urging me to reject the idea of sharing my turmoil with anyone new. Could she really understand the darkness? No. It's fine, I said, feeling suffocated by their concern. I just need a moment. Mark's eyes softened with understanding, sensing my overwhelming need for space. Okay, he said quietly, but the tension lingered as he stepped back. Just remember, you're not alone. I caught Avery's eye, hoping to find reassurance in her gaze, but all I found was silent curiosity, an invitation to open up and share my burdens that felt far too heavy. Just then, another notification pinged, this time from an unknown number. Flicking it open, my breath caught in my throat as cold dread settled over me. Look behind you. The air turned electric, every hair on my body standing on edge. My heart raced as the shadows beyond the porch stretched ominously, the night swallowing every hint of safety. Jack's presence suddenly felt closer, a dark specter lurking just outside the circle of light. Ellie. Mark's voice broke through, laced with concern, pulling me back from the confines of terror wrapping around me. Are you okay? I turned slowly, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I scanned the darkness behind me, fear clawing at the edges of my resolve. The evening air felt thick with unspoken warnings, and as I hesitated, breathing shallowly, I knew this was no longer just about me, it was about the choices that would forever alter everything. And in that moment, as uncertainty loomed, I realized, more than anything, I needed to confront not only Jack's looming threat but the hidden strength simmering inside me, waiting to be unleashed. Whether I wanted to or not, I would have to step forward into the dark and reclaim my power. The chill in the air wrapped around me as I took a hesitant step away from the safety of the porch light. Anxiety surged through my veins, mixing with the raw fear that Jack's words had ignited. Stay here, I whispered to Mark, who was still anchored in the warm glow of the light. His eyes flickered with concern, but I could see the determination beneath. Ellie, don't, he pleaded softly, but I had already crossed the threshold. The darkness swallowed me, and I felt like a ghost drifting through an ominous haze. My heart echoed in my chest, thundering against the confinement of my fear, but the overwhelming need to confront whatever lurked out there propelled me forward. Look behind you. The message kept replaying in my mind. I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, the weight of my past pushing me closer to the fall. In the stillness of the night, I glanced over my shoulder, caught between the desperate wish for someone to comfort me and the urge to face the unknown without anyone to witness my vulnerability. The shadows morphed, taking shapes that danced just beyond my reach, and suddenly the world felt both infinitely large and hauntingly small. Then, as I peered into the abyss, a figure detached itself from the darkness, a man, tall and imposing, his features obscured. My breath hitched, fear surging as his presence loomed. But when I squinted, something familiar tugged at my memory. Ellie. The voice was rough, but the concern wrapped around the syllables like a soft embrace. You shouldn't be out here alone. A surge of emotion collided within me as the moonlight caught his features. Lucas. My breath steadied for a moment, then quickened again with confusion. What are you doing here? My voice trembled as I fought back a tide of long-buried feelings, memories flooding back to the summer of freedom and laughter we once shared. You've been distant, he said, his gaze steady, piercing through my defenses. I was worried. There was a depth to his words, a hint of vulnerability that cracked through my emotional barriers. I shook my head, unsure of the tumult I felt upon seeing him. You shouldn't have come. My life, it's messy right now. Which is exactly why I did. Lucas stepped closer, the warmth of his presence flickering like the dying embers of a fire on a cold night. I don't want you to face this alone, Ellie. Panic fluttered in my chest again, battling between longing for support and the instinct to retreat. I didn't want him to see the cracks in my carefully constructed facade. You don't understand, I choked out, emotion threatening to spill over. Jack's dangerous, Lucas' brow furrowed, alarm flashing across his face. I know. I heard about him. That's why I'm here. Let me help you. His sincerity cut through the air like a knife, sharper than the dread that shadowed me. No. I blurted out, heat rising in my cheeks. I can't drag you into this. You don't know what he's capable of. But that's the point, Ellie. You shouldn't have to fight this alone, he insisted, stepping even closer. You deserve to be safe. Please, let me be that for you. For one fleeting moment, the chaos of my life felt light, the promise of connection blooming amidst the turmoil. But just as quickly, doubt crept back. I don't know how to trust again, I whispered, the truth slithering out with pain. Trust is a choice, Ellie. I can't make it for you, but it'll be right here, no matter what. His eyes were blazing with conviction. Just then, a sudden flash illuminated the yard, and I turned instinctively toward the source, my heart pounding in my chest. The light was blinding, an oncoming vehicle approaching through the darkness. I squinted, trying to discern the silhouette behind the wheel, dread coiling in my stomach at the thought of who it might be. Ellie. Mark's voice echoed from the porch, panic lacing his words. I glanced back at him, his silhouette tense with worry. The vehicle had slowed, headlights cutting through the night, bathing us all in an eerie glow. Stay back. I shouted, the urgency clawing at my throat. It could be Jack. Lucas reached for my arm, anchoring me where I stood. Stay close to me, he urged, confidence in his stance as he positioned himself protectively in front of me. I felt a few flickers of hope amidst the fear, the kind that stems from knowing I wasn't alone in this battle, but the vehicle's engine growled as it finally stopped a few feet away, shadows spilling from the driver's seat like oil. The door swung open, revealing a figure stepping out, someone I never expected. Ellie, I'm back, Rachel said, a broad smile on her face that quickly shifted to concern as she noticed the tension. The momentary comfort from her words evaporated as reality crashed down. Rachel had returned, but why now? Jack's threats loomed larger, the heaviness of uncertainty thickening in the air. In that moment, as the light anchored me to the present, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. How had everything turned upside down so quickly? Lucas, still beside me, peered into the darkness, eyes narrowed as if sensing something beyond our sight, the impending storm of chaos that was about to descend. I stood on the precipice of a cliff, surrounded by shadows, and as Rachel's presence washed over me, the burden of truth loomed like the dim light of hope struggling to break through the dark clouds. "Ellie, we need to talk about Jack," Rachel said, her voice steady, yet I could sense the underlying current of dread, and just like that, the ache in my chest deepened, fear wrapping its tendrils tighter around me. I had hoped for the clarity I desperately sought, but instead, a new wave of uncertainty crashed upon me, threatening to pull me under. Everything was about to change again, and I had no idea if I was ready for what awaited in the shadows. My heart raced as I processed Rachel's unexpected return, a mix of shock and unease vibrating through my veins. I was caught in a tangled web of emotions: relief that she was safe, fear of the complications she brought, and a flicker of resentment that her timing couldn't be worse. "Rachel, what do you mean we need to talk about Jack?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. The wind whipped around us, carrying with it the faint scent of autumn leaves, a bittersweet reminder of simpler times. She stepped towards me, and I noticed how her playful demeanor had shifted into something more serious. "I heard about him, Ellie," she said, her expression turning grave. "I was on my way back to Lucas," interrupted her, his protective instincts kicking in. "This isn't a good time, Rachel. We need to leave. Now." He turned to me, his grip on my arm firm but gentle. "We can't stay here. It isn't safe." "Wait," I interjected, panic creeping into my voice. "Rachel, I want to know what you know. What has Jack done to you?" I needed answers more than I wanted safety, more than I wanted to turn my back on a friend. Rachel's face twisted, shadows flickering in the headlights. He's not who he seems, Ellie. You don't understand the depths he's willing to go to keep you under his control. When I was with him, I saw things that made me scared for my life." Her words pulsed in the air like a somber drumbeat, echoing the fears I had kept buried deep within. I turned to Lucas, searching for affirmation in his eyes. He met my gaze, the intensity of his look a silent vow to stand beside me, no matter where this led. "But why would he target you, Rachel?" "You left because leaving wasn't enough," she admitted, her voice now low and urgent. "He thinks he can manipulate everyone around you to get to you. He won't let you give in if you're not with him anymore. He's dangerous, Ellie." The weight of her revelation sank in like a stone. Unshed tears threatened to spill from my eyes as years of confusion and turmoil spiraled back to the forefront. How had we gotten tangled in this darkness again? "Ellie, we need to go," Lucas pressed, shifting his stance, gaze darting between Rachel and the encroaching shadows. "No." Rachel cried out, panic flickering across her features. "If we leave, it will only make things worse. He's watching, he always knows." The shadows across the yard grew heavier, as if absorbing our uncertainty, ready to swallow us whole. "Watching how?" I asked, the tremor in my voice evident. "Through his network. He has people everywhere," she said. "If we don't confront this, it will haunt you. Trust me." My mind whirled, caught in a tempest of conflicting emotions. Could I trust Rachel again? The years of friendship tangled together with betrayal. Yet, at this moment, we were united by fear. Outside the circle of headlights, the world had become a twisted rendition of reality, every sound magnified, every distant scrunch of gravel echoing like a warning bell. Lucas held my gaze, and I saw the flicker of vulnerability beneath his determined exterior. He wanted to protect me, but could I lean on him when I couldn't see the way forward? "Look, maybe we can come up with a plan," I suggested, as my heart raced, fueled by the desperation to regain control of my life. Rachel nodded slowly, clearly battling her own fears. "I know this sounds insane, but we need to lure him out. If you're strong enough to face him, we might lure him out." Lucas interrupted, incredulous. "That's dangerous, Rachel. You can't just provoke him. If he's really as unpredictable as you say, we can't risk it." "This isn't just about me," I countered, my voice firmer than before. "This is about all of us. We need to make him understand that he can't sweep through our lives like this anymore." As the reality of my words settled in the air, a sudden rush of adrenaline coursed through me. Perhaps this was a chance for reclamation, a way to take back what he had stolen. Ratcheting up the tension, Rachel took a sharp breath. It won't be easy. I might have to go to him, pretend things are okay. Let me draw him in. Then we can confront him. Together. No. Lucas shouted, his passion igniting the air between us. It's too dangerous. We can't put you in harm's way. None of us may come out of this unscathed, Rachel declared, her gaze fixed on me, as if searching for the strength she hoped existed within. But trust me, if we don't take action, he will keep terrorizing your life. This is our only shot. The reality pressed in around us, dark and thick like the encroaching night. While Lucas' concern sparked my heart into a frenzy of panic, a flicker of hope ignited within me, too. Perhaps in grappling with my past and confronting the demons I had buried, I could finally forge a path to freedom. Rachel stepped closer, urgency alive in her eyes. We can handle this together, Ellie. We just need to act before he makes his next move. As uncertainty wrestled with purpose, I felt the ground shift beneath me once again. My voice barely broke through the tumult as I whispered, what if he retaliates? What if this plan backfires? Lucas' hand found mine, his warmth enveloping my trembling fingers. No matter what happens, you don't face him alone, he vowed, deep resolve etched into his features. With trembling courage, I made my decision. Okay. Well, do it. Well, confront him. Together. As I spoke those words, tinged with determination and fear, the chilling wind howled around us as though echoing the storm that lay ahead. Little did I know that the darkest shadows were gathering, ready to unveil secrets that would shake the very foundations of what I thought I knew, and just then, as if on cue, a sinister laughter echoed in the distance, chilling my bones and beckoning darkness from the depths. My breath caught, and in that moment, I realized that shadows held more than just fear, they held the power to rewrite destinies. The night was thick with unspoken tension, and the cold air wrapped around me like a shroud as I stood with Rachel and Lucas, the stakes higher than I had ever imagined. I gazed back at the house, where light spilled from the windows, a warmth that felt like an entirely different world from the chaotic vortex looming ahead. We need a plan, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, trying to conceal the trembling fear beneath the surface. Rachel nodded, her eyes wide but resolute, a fierce spark igniting a flicker of strength within me. Hey Race, what we can do, she began, her voice steady, they'll go to Jack and act like everything is fine, let him think he still has control. That's how we'll draw him in. No way, Lucas interjected immediately, his voice laced with protective urgency. This isn't just a game, Rachel. If he senses even a whiff of confrontation, it could get dangerous. This is bigger than all of us, Lucas, Rachel shot back, her frustration bubbling to the surface, fueled by fear and determination. We can't keep running and pretending any longer. It's about time we reclaim our lives. A chill settled over me as I weighed the truth in her words. As I stood there, the chaos in my heart struggled against the hope that flickered quietly beneath all the shadows. I clung to Lucas's hand tighter, feeling the warmth pulse through our connect, a reminder that I wasn't in this alone. I took a deep breath and looked at them both, my mind racing and my pulse quickening. I want to confront him. I want to meet, but it has to be all three of us. Together. Silence blanketed us, the magnitude of my declaration sinking in. It was a bold step toward a destiny I didn't yet fully understand. Rachel's eyes were wide with surprise, but within them was something else, admiration. Hope. Okay, we can do that, she agreed, her voice softening. But we need to be careful. We have to calculate every move. Lucas nodded, a fierce determination igniting in his eyes that made my heart surge. Together. No one gets left behind. Just then, a series of loud knocks echoed through the night, a violent rattle that rattled the very core of my resolve. Anxiety clawed at my insides as fear combined with urgency swelled. With each second that passed, the unknown grew more menacing. What was that? I whispered, turning to Lucas and Rachel. It's him, Rachel said, her voice low and laden with dread. He's here. Without thinking, I instinctively grabbed Mark's hand, turning back to the safety of the light that shone from the house. "We need to be strong," I said, more to myself than anyone else, as panic surged alongside adrenaline. Together, we moved toward the porch, prepared to face the terror that lay waiting just outside. When I reached the door, I pushed it open to reveal that familiar, dark figure standing just beyond the threshold. Jack. His presence seemed to drain the warmth from the air, a chilling reminder of everything I wanted to escape. "Ellie," he said, the corners of his mouth twisting into a smirk that sent shivers down my spine. "You're really back in my life, aren't you? I always knew you'd come around." Keeping my resolve, I stepped forward. "What do you want, Jack? I've made it clear that this needs to end." The tremor in my voice contradicted the bravado I had summoned. "You put me through hell, and I won't allow you to control my life anymore." Jack's laughter echoed around us, an unsettling sound that wrapped around my heart like ice. "Control? You think you've escaped me? I've been watching you, Ellie. Always. Watching. Who are you?" "This isn't just a game," Lucas shouted, stepping beside me, protective and fierce. "You think this intimidation works? You're nothing but a coward." As I watched the confrontation unfold, I felt an unexpected rush of strength surging through me, an energy that ignited the core of my being. Jack's arrogance faltered for a moment, surprise flitting across his face. "You think you can escape the safety I provided?" he challenged. "You owe me everything. You have no idea what I am capable of. I know exactly what you are, and it stops now." My voice grew firmer, resonating through the frigid night. "I'm not alone, and I refuse to let you control my fear any longer." A deep frown settled on his brow, and he shifted ever so slightly, calculating. "You think you can stand against me? You're playing with fire." In that moment, something within me snapped into place, a realization stronger than my fear. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "This isn't just about me. You've threatened the people I love, and together, we can take back what you took from us." Jack stepped back slowly, eyes narrowing. "You really think they can save you? What a pity." "Maybe," I said defiantly. "But we're not playing by your rules anymore." As the final chords of our confrontation echoed around us, I suddenly felt lighter, as if the shadows that had loomed so fiercely before began to recede. The realization settled in the fight wouldn't just be about facing Jack but rather reclaiming my own identity and power. Jack turned, teeth gritted. "You'll regret this, Ellie. He'll always find you. Not if I have anything to say about it." With that, he retreated into the darkness, leaving a silence behind him, thick and still. The air shifted inexplicably as if the universe had realigned itself in our favor. I felt the weight of tension lift, the burden that had once overshadowed my heart lightening with each breath. Suddenly, a multitude of voices broke through the silence, voices filled with laughter and love from within the house. In that moment, a wave of vulnerability washed over me, and I turned toward Rachel and Lucas, tears threatening to spill. "Thank you for being here. I didn't know I could face him until just now." "You're stronger than you realize, Ellie," Lucas replied, his eyes warm and earnest. "And this is just the beginning." The warmth in their presence began to fill the cracks that had formed, revealing the possibility of renewal rather than fear. As laughter floated through the air from the comforting embrace of my home, I felt the spark of change ignite deep within me. I turned one last time to gaze into the darkness where Jack had vanished, certainty blooming in the depths of my heart. With every passing moment, the shadows lost their power as I finally chose to step into the light, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled, heart lifted, ready to embrace whatever came next. Because now, armed with love, hope, and determination, I knew I wasn't alone in this fight. This was my moment to reclaim my strength, and I was ready to face the dawn of a new beginning. After all, sometimes in the darkest of nights, the most brilliant stars are born.